certified energy auditor and energy manager. Just a minute. So sorry, one notification was coming. Someone wants to join. I think from admin side, they may look all this, whoever the participants are joining. So they may, and they allow.
Yes, we already allowed, sir. We already allowed. Yes.
Okay, sure. So I'm a manager from BWE, Bureau of Energy Efficiency. So let's start the today's sessions on green and sustainable supply chain management. Just is my able to everyone? Okay. Hello.
Yes, sir. Your PPT is visible.
Okay. So as you know that in current scenario or the current era where the climate change and the environmental conservations are critical challenge, and introducing sustainable into the every aspect of our business, including our supply chains. So you know that in scope 3 we have to include all these downstream and upstream. All this downstream and upstream supply chain we have to include in the scope 3 emissions, how much CO2 emissions we are releasing or we are adding, release of CO2 emissions because of that. So the green supply chain is a concept that involves the incorporation of eco-friendly practices into the traditional supply chain management, and it aims to reduce waste and the carbon emissions while simultaneously increasing the efficiency and the profitability. The importance of the green supply chains can't be overstressed. That this green supply chain management is not only boost our the corporate social responsibility profile, but also bring tangible financial benefits. Just a minute. Just a minute. Interruption. Yeah. So if during the course of the presentation, if you have any doubt and all, you can just unmute yourself and ask the question as well. So just sorry to this interruptions. So let's get started. Like if you'll see, the green supply chain management include the green procurement, green product development, green manufacturing, and the green operations. So I will explain all these things in the details in the coming slides. So the green supply chain is ranging from the reactive monitoring of the general environment management program to the more proactive practices. And green supply chain management is implemented through various R, like reduce, reuse, rework, reclaim, recycle, remanufacturing, or the reverse logistics. If you see, this is circular. It's also the part of the circular supply chain where we use these different forms of the R as well. So the next slide is green procurement. If you know that procurement is one of the part of the supply chain. So the environment preferable purchasing, or the EPP of the green purchasing, is the purchasing of a product that has a reduced negative effect or the increased positive effect on the human health and the environment. And we can like, just chat is coming. Okay, sure. So we can integrate the green supply chain through the purchase of environmentally friendly products and the services, selecting suitable contractor and setting of the environmental requirement in a contract. We can include suppose if you wants to purchase anything, so we can include that the product should be environmental friendly, or we can include to submit the LC or the life cycle assessment of the product, so that we can identify that which products is having the lesser impact on the environment, and the purchase team or the procurement team can decide or the include those products who have those products which has the lesser impact on the environment. So a perfect implementation of the green procurement is done by the IKEA, which what they did, the information submitted by the suppliers, and they observed that any suppliers is violating the code of green practices, they are removed. They have removed from those lists, and they are purchasing all the lesser impact products to have the lesser impact on the environment. And another thing is Jitsu is a green company and has a green procurement policy, and they selected material, parts, products, and the production equipment based on the price, environmental impact, quality, and delivery. Environmental consideration in the green procurement that includes avoidance of the toxic substance during the production and the disposal, as well as the resources, whatever the energy is consumed during the production, recyclability or the ease of the assembly for processing and the disposal. That also include is one of the part of the green procurement. The next is the green product development. So an eco-friendly design approach leads to the less material uses, product resources, and reduces that emissions. So the green product development that includes appropriate use of the process, machine, and the tools at the designing level to reduce the exhaust emissions. And the green green product development include the following features, like it can be grown without the use of the toxic chemicals and within the hygienic conditions. It can be recycled and reused, and it is biodegradable in nature. It comes with the eco-friendly packaging that uses the least resources, and it is eco-efficient. It has the reduced zero carbon footprint or the plastic footprint. ISO 14062 is an international environmental standards which assess the integration of the environmental aspects into the product design and the development. So if any organization is following that ISO 14062, they can judge that which product is the design through which that product is manufactured. It is the green product, or they bifurcate it is the green or not green. And furthermore, the ISO 14001 standards also enables company to certify their commitment to the environment by managing the ecological hazard intrinsic in their activities or in the procurement. So I hope till this slides everyone is clear and has no doubt. If you have any doubt, you can unmute yourself and ask any questions. So the green manufacturing is one of the part of the green supply chain. So green manufacturing is nothing but the renewal of the production process and the establishment of the environmental friendly operations within the manufacturing field. And green aspects in the green manufacturing helps in the achieving the economies of the scale in productions, pollution reductions and removal, greenhouse gas reductions and recycling, etc. So these are the major benefits of the green manufacturing. So, yeah. So green operation is one of the part of the green supply chain, and green operation is nothing but the day-to-day business activity which focuses on the cost efficient and the productivity to make less impact and support the sustainability. Green and the sustainable practices can make the company more marketable. Consumer can also become more consumer are also nowadays more conscious about the environment, and making improvements will strengthen the reputation of the organization. So nowadays the technology and the social media have enabled buyers to easily and publicly remote practices, and they help to criticize companies for their green practices or any lack or any technology where they have not integrated or implemented in their organizations. All this social media and all, they are be criticized, or they criticize on the social media and all. So there are the variety of the tax credited as well, or the rebates on both the federal as well as the state level for the manufacturer who proactively implement more sustainable improvements. And there may be incentives available for the business who are doing more who are doing more towards the green operation, like Tata Steel and all. They are working more towards the production of the green steel. In the similar way, other organizations, they are manufacturing different products. Uh, like this agriculture, whatever if you know that ITC and all, they are working aggressively toward the agribusiness or the sustainable business, and ITC is the only organization in the world who are those are the kind of the water neutral, CO2 carbon emissions, carbon positive, water positive, and waste positive as well, because of their policy recently they have adopted. So these are the recent
Sir,
latest.
if I may just ask you, what exactly is the difference then between the green production and the green operations? Is green green manufacturing is a part of the operations, or are they completely two different things?
Green manufacturing is a part of the operation itself, because you are manufacturing, suppose green steel. So this is green steel is the final output of this manufacturing process. So the supply chain includes the material from the raw material to the finished good products. So this is the one of the part, or the you can say we are purchasing the raw materials, manufacturing or the processing, or putting in the operations, and the final output is your steel or any metal or any FMCG products. This is the final output. So this process involved like purchase of equipments, purchase of the raw materials, so procurement of raw materials and everything. That is a part of the manufacturing process. So, and it includes the part of the supply chain as well. So may I know actually, can you repeat the questions? You are saying what is the difference between manufacturing and the operations?
Yes, sir. You had one slide on green manufacturing. You had one slide on green
operations.
So I was trying to understand whether the green manufacturing is a subset of green operations, or they are two different things.
Green operation is the subset of the green manufacturing, because steel manufacturing is a bigger means it is, you can say the steel plant include the purchase of the raw material. They have the different sinter process. They have the sintering plant, they have the blast furnace, then they have the different CRM, cold roll mill, and hot seat mill and all. So the final product we are getting as the steel. And if entire in this value chain, if we'll add something, if we'll add something in which reduces your carbon emissions, if we'll follow all these green supply chain management principles, then it become we will get the green steel. That is called the green steel. Like green hydrogen is the green hydrogen, if you know the concept is there. If we are using the renewable energy only, then it's called as the green hydrogen. If you use the other sources where you're using the fossil fuels, then it is not the green hydrogen, this is the blue or the gray hydrogen. So the green manufacturing is the bigger concept. For the manufacturing industry, it's at the industry level, but the operation, maintenance, procurement, or you can say there's one of the departments are there. So at the each and every the value chain involved in this entire manufacturing or the process industry, every step you should think for the greener operations, where you should think for the to minimize the waste or to reduce the waste. So these are the things. So you can say the green operation is the subset of the green manufacturing. Am I clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. So these are the latest green supply chain management practices. These supply chain trends and practices are helping organizations to achieve the greener operations and promote a more sustainable future of our planet, like minimizing the air freight. So shipping by air is shipping by air is an extraordinarily efficient in terms of the transporting goods quickly. But unfortunately, it is far from the energy efficient. More organizations are seeing the value of using the air freight to meet only immediate demand only, while relying on the ocean freight and the rail transport to meet the planned ongoing needs. So you know that if you're transporting anything by the air, by the flight and all, so though it will take less time, but if you calculate your CO2 emissions, if you calculate your scope 3 emission, it is much more than the transportations by your railway or by the surface transport or the water transport. So developing the right freight and the transportation mix helps the organizations to meet the customer demands while minimizing the environmental impact. So you have to choose accordingly, that if it is not that much urgent, so we can reduce the carbon footprint by transporting those by either the railway or the water. So you know that by air freight, if we have to try to transport by the air freight, because the carbon footprint is more in the air freight system. Furthermore, like investing in the transportation infrastructure, like improvements to ports, railway, and roads, especially in the emerging markets like Southeast Asia, those are enabling more efficient transportation. Thus, in turn, has led to the fewer carbon emissions. Furthermore, the 3D printing, so now you know that every day 3D printing gets a new application across a range of industry, from aerospace to the medical devices manufacturing. So 3D printing is more energy efficient and cost efficient than other equipment and processes used in the manufacturing industry. And 3D printers are precise and lead to almost no material waste. You know that earlier we have to prepare the mold and the die on the cost this advanced manufacturing. We prepared that one first, the mold and die, and the precision of that was not that much not good, or not that precise, whatever the 3D printing is producing. So the wastage of the material is reducing by using the 3D printing and all. Furthermore, as we know that circular supply chains focus on recovering and recycling waste materials to turn into the sellable products. So this approach can make many forms, from refurbishing the old products for resale, like what the Apple companies do. What they do with their iPhone, to reprocessing the old components to make the brand new products. So if you see that when the sale is many a time this freedom sale or this comes into the Amazon or the Flipkart, what they do to reduce their prices, as well as to collect the your old phones. They just collect the old phones and try to get some parts which are useful and they can assemble in their new phone. They also do like that. If you will get some cash back, or you can pay back, or there's this in the purchase of procurement, there is a buyback option is there. If you can sell your old, give some discount with the new products. So needless to say that adopting the circular economy model reduces waste and helps keep valuable materials out of the landfills, and that can be quite profitable for the companies as well. So if any of your component, if you use using for the landfills, and also it will that will not help you to achieve the zero waste policy. So this circular supply chain helps a lot in the industry to reduce their waste and get more profit from whatever the waste they are generating. And if any company is generating the hazardous waste, then it's mandatory that they have to reduce their generation of hazardous waste, so that industry can achieve the zero waste. Furthermore, like if any of the organization is emitting more carbon, so carbon trading is the process of exchanging carbon credits among the nation to minimize the CO2 emission. Each country has a cap on the amount of the CO2, like every country wants to become net zero. Like India has declared by 2070 they will able to achieve the net zero. China and other European country, maybe they have declared that by 2050 they will able to achieve 2060. But there is a huge R&D, research and development, and in the business a lot of transitions is going on, so that the country can achieve the net zero in between the 2050 to 2070. And this carbon emission trading is one of the that will play a vital role, while like nation with the higher carbon emissions can buy carbon credits from the country with the lower carbon emissions, that gaining the right to release more CO2 into the atmosphere. So the individual company can also engage in the trading. The idea behind the system is that using fossil fuels comes into many hidden costs, from environmental degradations to the healthcare, healthcare needs resulting from the poor air quality. So putting a price tag on the right to emit carbon gives nations and the corporations a financial incentive to reduce their emissions. In fact, emission trading systems around the world are growing in number. Nowadays, Indian government is also thinking to formulate a policy for the carbon trading. So these are the various technology development that impact the this green supply chain management. So the in event of the supply chain technology, innovations make it easier to achieve the green supply chain, resulting by optimizing the efficiency at very leg to the product journey, like Internet of the Things. Like what they did, IoT enables organizations to monitor the equipment's inventory and energy use in the real time. For example, sensors can track the temperature as well as the lighting inside the warehouse, so making it possible to control these aspects. Organization that gain the greater awareness of the energy waste, overstocking, and other missteps that leads to the clear pictures of what they need to change throughout the supply chain. So in IoT, monitor the real-time IoT things that monitor the real-time monitoring of the CO2 emissions data and all, and the management can decide in which of the steps or in which the production process we can do some technological changes or the retrofitting in the devices that can really reduce the CO2 emissions or the greenhouse gas emissions. Furthermore, this digitalization of the supply chain that involves the digital tools such as the smarter WMS that make it possible to increase the supply chain efficiency as well as the automate the entire supply chain process, from stock recording to the optimizing warehouse picking paths. So this helps the supply chain leaders to increase the accuracy, avoid rush orders that required expedited shipping solutions like the air freight, and preventing the over ordering. In turn, this improvements helps to reduce the waste as well as the energy use. Furthermore, you know that artificial intelligence is getting now much popularity to do all this. Is like we have the chat GPT, we have the another artificial intelligence is adding in every step in every solutions, like in either to achieve the net zero, all the process industry, they are using the artificial intelligence that helps to automate the process, the boost efficiency and prevent the human error. So these capabilities are useful throughout the supply chain, from the streamlining manufacturing process to using data to forecast the product demand, to analyze the delivery routes and planning the quickest journey. So in the transportation model, the AI can give you the exact picture, or you can say the artificial intelligence will provide the route of transportation of the material that will reduce your the CO2 emissions. By help of the AI, say the route optimizations tools enabled by the AI help save an average a few minutes of each truck haul, and over the course of a year that could add up a significant reductions in the fuel expenditure as well as the CO2 emissions. Now the robotics also hold a great potential for the streamlining operations throughout the supply chain, particularly when it comes to the logistics. For example, you can say that drone could one day make small deliveries. Nowadays, you know that through these robots and all through the drones, we are so that drones are supporting the farmers and all through the irrigation and all. Now for the smaller distance, this drone is also you can say that delivering some products as well to the consumer. So these small technological changes nowadays is getting more popularity to that impacting the this green supply chain. Like in addition, the self-driving trucks could also automate traffic decisions, optimizing everything from the delivery route to the as well as the fuel efficiency. The material engineering nowadays, through this use of the advances in the material engineering, have that had led to the greener and more efficient manufacturing and the product packaging. For example, new processes make it easier to turn recycled materials into the durable products, or develop the new materials into the lightweight but strong. In addition, the life cycle planning tools helps organizations to optimize products for a future beyond their initial use. So the LCA analysis of the products that is very much helpful, and the management can take in decisions that, and it also they can showcase that product to the customer, that my product is least impacting, or the least impact on the environment and all, through the LCA study. So these are the factors that affect the green supply chain practices. Like green supply chain practices are critical to the health of our planet and continued sustainability of the industry. In addition, they lead to the competitiveness and the economic performance in the several ways. One, by increasing the cost efficiency, reducing waste, and meeting the consumer demands for the green products. That said, that the leading factors advancing adoption of the green supply chain practices can also hinder the process of the going green if not managed properly. Let's take a look at some of these factors that the business can do to develop and promote the green supply chain practices, like leadership commitment. When the managers and the executives are all fully on the board, it's much easier to develop a unified approach to create a green supply chain strategy. On the other hand, when the decision makers disagree about what the practices to adopt, and if there will be any contradictions can arise throughout the supply chain, then there is chances that management can't be able to take decisions toward the environment and all. So potential challenges includes the issue with the supply chain performance, quality control, and overall effectiveness of the green initiatives. Second is that is technology. So you know that a variety of software applications and advanced technology support green supply chain management at various steps of the process. This includes that could range from the warehouse management system WMS that boosts the warehouse efficiency, to a new manufacturing technology that uses less energy to make products, or reduce the quantities of the hazardous materials involved in the manufacturing process. So when employees learn and readily adopt technology that enables the green supply chains, then organizations tend to see the good results towards the environmental footprint, or the reduction in the environmental footprint. So when these employees push back or poor adoption, it can harder to implement these challenges and all. Furthermore, like the next is the brand image and the company cultures. When going green has the positive implication on the organization's brand and culture, that support these changes. So introducing new green practices throughout your supply chain tends to improve your brand image and the company culture. Like what the Tata Steel is doing, they have given the deadline or the timeline that by 2045 they will be able to achieve net zero. Similarly, they are working aggressively. They have the short term, long term, and the mid term plan, that how they will able to achieve, what are the technological changes, retrofitting, what kind of the process they have to change. Like the DRI process, they are changing entire into the matrix technology, and they will use the hydrogen. They have already in the process of trial basis, they have also using the hydrogen in the trial basis in their blast furnace. So all this, they have the through this all this challenge, they have set a deadline or the target to achieve or reduce the CO2 in a subsequent coming year. So they have the short-term target they will able to achieve. They're targeting to achieve 30% reduction in the CO2 emission by 2025. Which is the major changes or the major challenges they have. They are investing a lot in their green supply chain or the green value chain practices. The next comes in the picture is the cost. So that is the major picture where you are thinking for to change any kind of the or change your supply chain or the value chain. You have to invest, because all this technological changes is very new, and their companies are investing a lot in their R&D activities. So depending on your business and industry, and that developing a green supply chain may initially seems cost prohibitive. The expenses of investing or the overhauling your infrastructure and equipment maybe you can say that reduced over the year. So, for example, in addition to the PV cells panels to your green warehouse roof can also generate alternative energy sources that reduce your reliance on the fossil fuels and lower the overall cost of powering your facility. So through your initial though your initial investment is steep, you will recoup your outlay, and then some of your investment can be in the further, because it's a kind of the if you install all this PV cell and also in that year your cost will be high, but there is no subsequent recurring cost is very less. Only you have to pay only for your maintenance and all. So these are the few things where that affecting the green supply chain. The last but not the least is the knowledge. Like various experts are required that expertise are required to implement the green supply chain management, like involving green architects, consultants, and other green supply chain experts can help companies make the best use of the green resources and all, and implementing the sustainable solutions, and that will help to optimize the solutions. For instances involving agility in your planning, a green logistic solutions can also take the guesswork out of the sustainable distributions. So expert can also give you guidance that which are the things you need to change so that you can achieve the green supply chain or the green value chain in your process. I hope till now all this clear. If you have any question, you may unmute yourself and ask your doubts. Otherwise, I can proceed. So these are the few challenges of creating the supply chain. Like the larger business around the world, they are trying to create the green supply chains to help the planet and help their business present themselves better. So unfortunately, green supply chains are very hard to deploy even for the most successful business in the world. So few of the things like I want to highlight, like one is the supplier compliance and one is the lack of knowledge or the ignorance. So the supplier compliance that include the idea behind the green supply chain rest on the trust and the good faith. To implement the green supply chain, a company must procure its raw materials from other green supply chain company. Like green supply chains, you can say that they are also following the or working towards the environment or to reduce the CO2 emissions. However, getting your suppliers to comply to your ideals is near impossible in most of the cases. Even first-tier suppliers often violate the green supply chain requirements, since most of your suppliers will originate in different countries or in a different state of the India itself. So you can say this is very difficult. Each and every whatever the raw material you're using, you will get the organization they are following and to reduce the carbon footprint or the environmental footprint. So one solution to this challenge is for every business, whatever buyer or supplier should themselves try to be a part of the green supply chain wave. One way because business can find out their second and the third tier suppliers by studying the global shipment data and all. So you can say the Intel, that is a renowned manufacturing company. Intel chip is everyone, whoever is using a laptop, they must have the processor made of the Intel. So Intel is a supply chain intelligence tool that helps you leverage global shipment data to improve your supply chain. So various tools are available that helps and to identify the green you can say the green buyers or the suppliers, and in the different regions and different you can say the country. The second is the lack of knowledge or the ignorance. So global supply chain or the you can say the massive complicated waves of the buyers and the sellers around the world, and it's very difficult for the companies to know about lower tier suppliers and the other companies that are involved in the supply chain or the green supply chain. So most major company only deal with the first tier suppliers for their business needs. This lack of knowledge and ignorance is why many companies are get called out of the unfair practices. An example that would be the existence of the Nike's shoe shop in the China. Despite business best intentions, there's nothing. They are not about. They are not ignoring the suppliers and all. So these are the things where the organizations can think to implement their green supply chain, and they can save their money. So the fundamental principle of the green supply chain is reducing waste and the overall energy use. This is the fundamental principle. You have to reduce your waste as well as the energy. So needless to say, this can lead to the big cost saving. According to the inbound logistics, the office supply retailers like Staples that can save up to 3 millions in the fuel annually simply by asking its delivery drivers to slow down. So by limiting top speed to the 60 miles per hour, Staples reduced its fleet fuel efficiency from 8.5 millions per gallon to 10.5 mpg per gallon. That is 20% lesser fuel that can be used. Other ways of using the green supply chain management practices to improve the environmental performance as well as they reduce the cost. Like you have to think for your materials, what kind of material you are using. Like using the recycled materials during the manufacturing process can also save the money. For instance, it's now possible to convert the waste plastic into the 3D printing filaments, which manufacture. So the manufacturing can use to create the new products at lower cost when the new plastic is they are producing the new plastic. So while testing also the new materials to ensure that meet the safety performance standards as well as the payoff period of the material. Furthermore, the reusing waste or the byproducts, like thinking creativity about the company, whatever the company you are wasting or the throwing anything. So at the manufacturing stage itself, you can think to reuse or the reduce that waste. So in that way, it's possible to reduce your waste, otherwise discard or even unlock your new revenue stream from the recyclable materials. That is also one of the area you can think for that. So some food manufacturing supply local farmers with the organic waste, whatever the organic waste you are using, like food and all. Now whatever we are wasting, now some organizations are generating the biogas from that one. So in that way, small changes you can think to reduce, reuse, and all whatever the different RIF suggested at the initial of the presentations. So I hope this is clear to everyone. So this is nothing tough in that one. You have to optimize the transport. You have to cutting back on the packaging and all. So these are the critical success factor in the green supply chain management. Like there is no doubt that the green supply chain is a relatively new idea, which is gaining popularity so as to improve the environmental performance in the organization as the whole value chain. So we identified some of the critical success factors for putting the green supply chain management into the practices to attain the better environmental sustainability, like ethical leadership or the internal management, customer management, supplier management, competitiveness, social or the regulatory. So the first one is the ethical leadership or the internal management. So the internal environment management contains the support and encouragement from the senior managers or the senior management team. And the internal management, you can say, is a key critical success factor for any enterprises. The green practices and the strategy in the supply chain management to adopt the green practices is come from this internal management of the senior management team. So the employed can think or they can produce this. They can support the value chain so that they can achieve the green supply chain management. The second is the customer management as well. So in green supply chain, customer play an important and effective part. Like if you wants to purchase anything, if you'll choose any product that is environmental friendly, so definitely the buyers also think to produce. They will also identify the need of the customer, and they will produce as per the your demand or the requirement. So customer the green supply. So if you're yeah, am I audible to everyone? Because connection is showing the unstable.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay, thank you. Thanks. The third is the supplier management. So, like you can say, the participation of the customer as well as the suppliers. So the suppliers also plays a vital role to supply chain management. So strong collaboration with the suppliers that enhances the incentive system and that boosts the adoption and the development of the innovative friendly idea. Furthermore, like the competitiveness, you will see a number of published researches showed that this competence and the relative elements could play a part in the green practices implementation in their supply chain. Like competitiveness has been perceived as a significant factor to implement green practices rather than organizations wish to protect environmental sustainability. So implementing green practices in firms, the business operations may also be, I think, also be dated back to additionally voluntary for the competitive factors. The fifth point is like social. So a number of researchers found that the significance of the social factors for attaining environmental friendly practices objective that helps in growing attention of the regulatory bodies and the awareness of the customer on the environment. Firms have to exchange end-to-end information regarding their supply chain operation effect on the local community and the people lives. In addition, like the NGO, this electronic and the social media also that are also more effective in exerting pressures on the firms to adopt the green supply chain management practices. So their pressure, the requirement from the social media as well as the NGO can help, or the demand from this or the pressure created from the NGO or the social media also push the organizations towards the green supply chain. Furthermore, this regulatory body like the Central Pollution Control Board, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, MOFCC, and other regulatory body that pushing the organizations towards to achieve the greener supply chain management. Like the government bodies have been forming strict environmental laws to control the climate change, global warming, and the pollutions. And firms are required to reduce their supply chains' negative effects on the environmental sustainability. Hence, it's become more and more important for the firms in the supply chains to have conformity with the regulations so as to conducting eco-friendly strategy. They can build the strategy so that that will reduce the environmental impact or reduce the carbon footprint. So these are the kind of this is a sustainable supply chain, you can say. So what earlier I was talking about the green supply chain, and now I'm talking about the sustainable supply chain. What are the difference between that? I will explain in these slides. So sustainable supply chain is one that uses the environmentally and socially sustainable practices at every stage to protect the people and environment across the whole supply chain. This means an organization upholds the environment and social standards for their own operations and their suppliers' operations as well. So the environmental standards includes issues like the environmental degradations, deforestation, greenhouse gas emissions, pollutions, and the water security. And the social standards that includes like working condition, forced labor, fair labor practices, and health and safety. So you supply chain and the green supply chain. The green supply chain only consider the environmental impact, but the sustainable supply chain not only includes the environment, but also it includes the social factors as well. So there is a misconception the word sustainability solely means the environmental sustainability, that something is a good for our planet, but many business and the people use the term without considering social sustainability. So social sustainability is equally equally as environmental sustainability. A product that is good for the environment but has a negative consequences for the workers or the local community is not truly sustainable. So you can identify the difference between the sustainable supply chain and the green supply chain. So one reason for growing attention on the supply chain sustainability is that consumers are more aware of the unethical practices that exist in many supply chain, like child labor, forced labor, and the gender discrimination and all. So as consumer become more informed about this issue, they may choose to buy from companies that they can see are more actively managing the social as well as the environmental impact of their supply chains. So investors are also looking to make more socially and environmentally sustainable investment. So they are aware of the reputational and financial risk of the companies that have the unsustainable practices within their supply chain and may choose not to invest in these companies. These are the few parameters or the key components of the sustainable supply chain. The last but not the least is the climate change and the global disruptions. So consumers are also much more educated now on this negative environmental impacts of the supply chain, from where they have to buy, from where not to buy and all. So due to larger scale and the global productions, today's organizations hold the power to significantly mitigate the effects of the climate change in ways that individuals do not. So the long-term effects of the climate change are you can say that gives an flexibility that so that the organizations can make a policy or the strategy so that it will reduce the impact on the climate change. And like other thing, buildings is one of the factor. Like having a sustainable supply chain can also help the supply chain resilience in the vulnerable times when the workers are suffering from the negative effect of the environmental degradation. This in turn affects the ability and resilience of the workforce that our supply chains depends on. Increasing legislations, like many countries have introduced legislations for the supply chain sustainability that require business to demonstrate and report on their supply chain due diligence, like the UK Modern Slavery Act that was established in 2015, and it sets legal requirement for the companies to identify, prevent, and mitigate the modern slavery in their own operation and the supply chain. Similarly, the California also established the California Transparency in the Supply Chain Act in 2010, which requires large retail sellers and the manufacturers who do business in the California to annually disclose their effects to eradicate human trafficking and the modern slavery from their supply chain. Like in the India, we have to prepare the report in the BRSR. All the ESG factors we have included major ESG parameters and all, and we are preparing those report and we are submitting all those data in our BRSR report. So in the BRSR report is much more popular, but from the scope 3 or the supply chain management point of view, it's not that, or the reduction for the environmental footprint through this supply chain and all, it's not mandatory. It's kind of the voluntary in nature. You have to submit your scope 3 emission or not. So this is the last slide. So what are the components of the supply chain? So you can say there are mainly 3 components of the sustainable supply chain. I'm talking about on sustainable supply chain, not the green supply chains. So you can see the 20 years ago, the word sustainability was almost completely synonyms with the eco-friendliness. Today, it's much more holistic term. So the green, transparent, and the circular supply chain are all the components of the modern supply chains. Like a green supply chain is achieved by successfully integrating environmental responsibility principles and benchmarking into the supply chain management. That includes the product design, material sourcing, manufacturing, logistics, and end of life products management. With the rise of e-commerce, there are more products and the shopping choices than ever. To compete business and that need to find the resilient solutions to greening their supply chain while still growing profit. So this is the major challenges. So the supply chain technologies such as the AI and the machine learning can help the business and that spot risk patterns and the opportunity, allowing them to minimize the waste and improve the efficiency. So the supply chain transparency refers to the ability and the willingness of a business to openly disclose the information about their goods and the labor, as well as the end-to-end supply chain practices. So many business invest significant time and resources into the establishing and maintaining the ethical as well as the environmentally responsible standards or the responsible products. So this problem is, even with the best of the intention, that this has traditionally been very difficult to uh, enforce and implement. So fortunately, through the use of the digital technologies such as the blockchain as well as the RFID sensors, supply chain managers can now obtain an accurate record of the products as well as the suppliers, along with the entire supply chain journey of the product. In a circular supply chain, like products are disassembled or reduced to their raw materials from or remade into the sellable products, thus allowing the business to achieve the environmental benefits of the recycling while the recouping cost in the process. The win-win nature of this model is growing in popularity, and according to the 2020 survey, one of the survey at the Gartner, so 70% of the supply chain leaders plan to invest in the circular economy or circular supply chains. Some of the modern technology that support these initiatives include the use of the recycled plastics and the 3D printing that I have earlier discussed, and the ability for a advanced analytics to map out the most efficient logistics journey for returning products into the supply chain loop. So this is the last slide of this presentations. I hope till now it's clear to everyone. If you have any doubt, you can ask. Otherwise, after this slide, I will give you the time for any discussions. I am more happy to discuss, because I think most of you from the industry, and if you are facing any such kind of things to in implementation of the green supply chain or the sustainable supply chain, I am more happy to resolve your queries or help to support the organizations or your problems to implementation of the green supply chain management. Just explaining this slide. After that, we will start the question and answer and discuss on this green supply chain or the sustainable supply chain. Like the benefits. These are the benefits of the sustainable supply chain for the companies like that invest in a more sustainable and the transparent supply chain, that are potentially benefits across the entire business. Like one is the cost control. For between, if you see the 2019 and 2020, over 6,000 senior supply chain executives were surveyed by the PwC, one of the big four companies. So based on their level of the involvement and the implementation of the digital supply chain technology, they were ranked from the digital novices to the digital champions. And the digital champions reported and almost 7% drop in the supply chain management or the operation cost as a direct result of the digital transformations. And a you can say that 50% of the digital champions indicated that investment in the supply chain sustainability and the transparency will be higher priority than they ever when you can say the business successfully green the supply chain, they successfully lower their cost. So this is one of the study done by the PwC. When the business will become the greener, initially the investment will be high, but when your organizations or when your industry can implement that one, so your recurring cost or the running cost will will reduce further. And the second is the building brand loyalty and the reputation. So statistics recently published in the Forbes magazine showed that the consumers 80%, 88% you can say, more likely to be loyal to the companies that demonstrate strong social and the environmental responsibility. So consumer awareness and the preference for the sustainable business had been steadily increasing even before the pandemic. The last is the minimizing risk and the vulnerability. So it seems that every few years we hear a story about how a trend or the dangerous good slipped through the crack and made into the supply chain. So quite apart from the devastating consequences of anyone getting hurt, a product recall has the potential to damage the company reputations and all. So when supply chain transparency is enforced and implemented with the digital security solutions, so this helps the organizations to minimize the risk and the vulnerability and all. So this all from my side. If you have any questions, you may please ask. This presentation and all this information was informative, and you get some ideas or the information about the basic concept of the supply chains, green supply chain or the sustainable supply chain.
Sir, I happen to have a lot of questions, so
Yeah, please.
should I ask or let others ask and then I will?
No, you can ask, please.
Okay, so my first question is regarding ISO. You have mentioned ISO 14001 and 14062. These are normally standards that are going to standardize or list out what you are doing for environmental management. Do they also comment on the qualitative aspect of your environmental management processes?
Yes, if you see the 14001 is the series of standard 14001, 14002. So any organizations, if they are ISO for 14001 certified, so they are also following all these series of standards. Means there is a separate questionnaire there when any auditor or the like SGS or this BIS, when they do this audit, so they generally check through all this questionnaire where their product, whatever the products you are identifying or the manufacturing, whether you are following any kind of sort of, you are following those standards or not. And in that standards, this you are showing that quality. Can you repeat your question? You are asking about the quality, but I think quality
Yes,
is not
I
mentioned
mean, quality of the operations. Like if you're doing something for, let us say, reducing the packing material or reducing transportation, and your ISO processes are certified for that, do they also see how much you could have saved and how much you have saved?
No, this is
The qualitative aspect of the standard.
Quality is separate. 9001 standard is relevant for the quality, but in 14001 this is only this is only for the environmental and all. So if you are producing anything, that how much is the environmental impact, whether you are following all these norms of the environment and all, so that is included in the 14001. But the product quality or the operation quality is not is a part of the 14001 standard. Separate standards are there for the quality, that is 9001.
Okay, I think I need to reframe my question. What I was asking for was like supposing you are into copper smelting.
Okay.
And copper smelting by and large is a very highly polluting industry.
Yes.
So it is possible to use certain kinds of fuels to use your smelters, run your smelters, which may be producing less carbon. So
yes, I think
the company may be using a mix of fuels, and while certifying for their environmental action, will the ISO certifying agency see that it was possible to use 100% green fuel, but the company has used partially green and partially non-green, let us say coal or other such fuels? Or will they
Actually-
just say that, okay, this is the process and this is how they are managing?
Okay, thanks, Anuradha. That is a very nice question. Actually, ISO standards are kind of the general standard. It's not the industry specific standards. So you are saying the fuel and all, if in your emissions is using the better fuel where there is a reduction of the carbon and all. So the ISO standards do not restrict on the use of the fuels. So it's only if you are whatever the fuel you are using, if you are able to reduce, if you're not impacting any environment and all. So if you're using those things, then that is the better. ISO and audit standards, it's certain guidelines so that you will not emit something beyond the norms or the set by the main ISO standards, like SOx, NOx emissions and all. It set a guidelines. If you are using any fuel or you are changing all alternatively, if you're using any green fuel and all. So if your emissions is reducing, so it's more welcome, and this is and this is preferable also as well. So ISO guidelines do not restrict on the use of the fuels, but if you're using if you are using any greener options where you are able to minimize your this PM emissions, SOx or NOx, so it is I think there is no guidelines available to restrict on the use of the alternative fuel. I hope it's clear to you. Organization is
Yes,
trying
sir, that's-
to use the sustainable fuel as well as where that can reduce the SOx and NOx emissions.
Sir, and the second question is, are these certifications annual or how are they managed?
No, actually, if you're ISO certified, if you're ISO certified, I think they will provide the certifications for the 3 years. But annually, they just check. They will check that whether you have whatever the findings during the audit, if they found, you have to comply within the 1 month, and they will do the check annually. But the certification is valid for the 3 years as per the BIS.
Sir, another question that I had in this regard is, most of us, we talk only about the GHG emissions.
Yeah.
But then since there are so many industries and so many different kinds of pollutants,
Yeah.
are there standards for that as well? Just like you have GHG protocol, or the CDP might have some other protocols also?
Yeah, so as the GHG protocol, whatever the others you are saying, others are emitting, we have to calculate, we have to streamline in terms of the CO2 equivalent. If suppose your organization is using any refrigerant, so there is a in scope 1 emissions, we are calculating all as a fugitive emissions. If you are using any refrigerant like that is not that depletes the ozone layer and all, so that is also including that is included in our scope 1 emission itself, but in the forms of the equivalent of the CO2, because we have to streamline so that the we have to, because each and every gas have the different global warming potential. So the like methane has a different global warming potential, CO has a different, CO2 have the different. So for calculation and all, we have to streamline in the one form, so that we are calculating saying that not actually in the GHG scope 1 emissions, we're calculating the fugitive emissions and all. If any industry is using any kind of the gas or any releasing any kind of the or carbon monoxide and all, we are including in the scope, or we like in a scope 1 emissions, if you're using refrigerant or the any SFC or the any volatile organic compound, so different global warming potential is there. So we're calculating in terms of the CO2 equivalent, and we are gas whatever your organization is releasing. First, we are checking when an auditors go, and if they will check what are the total CO2 equivalents emission and all. So the first we have to identify the material topics and the boundary. So they have to identify the process and all, where there is chances of the release of the any kind of the gas, any gas. I'm saying you are saying it may be the refrigerant that impact the ozone layer or the impact the environment. So everything we have to identify, we have to add, and we have to add in this one you can say the unit that is the CO2 equivalent. So different gas have the different global warming potential, and this factor to convert into the release of the gas to the CO2 equivalent. There's a one factor is there that is declared by the GHG protocol website. You will find in the GHG protocol website, and that is the standard. So we are calculating all those things in scope 1 itself.
So even the water pollutants, effluents will also come under
No.
get converted?
No. If ETP is a separate, so water neutrality and all, that is a separate concept. So it's water, the pollutions and all this in the water bodies. If the GHG and all, if you are saying if this is the emissions into the environment or the air, then we are talking about. So ETP and all this, and we are not calculating this GHG. In the ETP, whatever the equipment you are using, this energy consumption and all, no, the motor and all, so that is comes under the scope 2 emissions. If any of the ETP is using. So in the CO2 emissions involved during the to run this ETP plant and all, so that is a part of the GHG protocol, and we have to add that in the scope 2 emissions. And if you are using any kind of the, if you have incinerator in your ETP, so that incinerator, if they burn any kind of the oil, residue oil and all, so that will be the part of the fuel and all, we have to include in the scope 1 emissions. But the ETP, I think there is no such release of the gas or the harmful gas except this your incinerator process, where if you are burning anything, fuel and all, so that incinerator, there is a chance of the release of emissions. So we have to calculate whatever the things we are releasing into the atmosphere, and how much during this process itself, how much impact on this CO2 and all, like using this electricity, where if you are using if you are taking the power supply from the grid, then you have to add the factor how much from this Central Electricity Authority. You will get the factor. I think it's approximately 0.8, because in the grid renewable energy sources is also there. You have to calculate accordingly how much you are using the fossil fuels power. I hope it's clear to you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
My next question is regarding the standards or the norms for the industries that are set. These are in India, at least as far as I know, the state pollution control boards set the standards that these will be the emission norms, these will be the effluent norms.
Yeah.
And
Actually, the norms and
rules
all
for
is set
law.
by the CPCB, and they are implemented by the SPCB through the CTO and EC, because these norms and all they generally give and provide to the all this industry. They only do the visit to the plant, your plant premises and all, and their CTO, they generally mention that how much the norms and any industry can follow, like any steel plant is there. If you are using the old technology and also the norms is different, but the new technology, if you are using the norms is now the norms has been reduced, changed. So CPCB go and visit that which kind of the technology you are using. So in the CTO, they mention that if you're using the old technology or the old process, but subsequently they in the special conditions they generally write that now you have to shift from this previous technology to the new technology. But the emission norms, it's like in the sinter plant I visited and I audited. So old sinter plant, the emissions norm or the release of the SPM norms is like 100 mg per nm3. But for the newer plant and all, it's 50 only, 50 mg nm3. So the standards and all this is set by the CPCB, but the implementation and all this done and the review is done by the SPCB. They are the implementing agency. So they generally adapt, and if they find that something is relevant for the industry, and they can give the input to the CPCB, and CPCB generally formulate the guidelines and all at the national level, and that to be implemented by the state pollution control board.
So nowadays, while granting a license for any factory to operate, can, under the new laws, can the state pollution control board state that your suppliers in turn will have to follow these norms, and then you are held responsible for that, or is it not like that?
Can you repeat and can you make it more clear? I'm not getting your question.
Sir, nowadays when we go for a manufacturing license, many a
Mhm.
times what happens is we also have vendors within the separate premises or nearby premises, and many of our components may go out for processing, or some parts may be purchased from the suppliers. So
Mhm.
can the state authorities or the central government insist that you ensure further down the line supply chain uh, norms for
Okay.
pollution control?
Till now, I have visited many industry and I have gone through the audit of the environment audit and as well as the energy audit, but I didn't find in any of the CTO they have strictly mentions to choose that supplier or the supplier from any reasons, because they generally have the two conditions. One is the general and one is the special conditions. So the general condition is, I think, more or less is the same for all the industry, but the special condition is the special requirements for that so generally, they do not write any kind of the specific suppliers that you have to implement those technology or adopt those technology for, or the purchase or the supply to those industry as well. But I didn't show any kind of this one. But like in if it is impacting anything related to environment, they can suggest, but they can't write on their CTO clause and all. It may suggest the relevant or the potential vendor or the supplier where you can purchase or you can supply your products, but they can't write on the CTO consent to operate or the consent for operations and all, or the EC
Because-
environmental license.
Yeah, because I believe for construction contracts where large government projects are there, like for road
Yeah.
construction, dam construction, and all, I think there they have these clauses that the main uh, bidder has to ensure that his subcontractors will also follow the norms.
That definitely that is I think in that scenario it's possible, because if you are hiring, if you are given any contracts through the this or given any work order, so you have, this is the, I think the general law or the general principle in any good organizations that they also follow, that if you are if you are technically qualified in their technical bid, then only you can they will open your price bid. So in the technical bit itself, they mention all this checklist, whether you are following all the CTO and EC clause or not, you are environmentally, if you are responsible for the not, whether you have submitted the environmental statement for the last 3 years. So along with the IT return and all, they also ask this environmental return or the statement of your environmental statement also they may ask during your technical bid. So I think in the Tata Steel I have audited recently, and they have mentioned in their tender or the bid this all this technical clause.
So one last question
Yeah.
from my side.
Yeah, sure.
When we are fixing the targets for ourselves as a company for the emissions and for effluents or whatever environmental and sustainable business decisions, that time many a times we have a conflicting set of stakeholders, like our customers want goods at a very cheap price and our investors want high profits, but at the same time everyone wants to appear very environment friendly and socially acceptable and all. So while managing all that, how do you decide how much of action to take in any particular course? Because each action is going to have a cost, and that cost is going to get added on to the customer as price, or it is going to eat into the investor's profit.
Understood. Yeah, no, this is very relevant question and very good questions you have asked. And I also means during the audit and all, I also faced the similar situations many times. You can say every organization is facing the same situations, because if you think for your stakeholder, if you think for your customers, then definitely the price goes high. Then at the same time, they have to compromise with the profit. Now it's depend on the availability in that facility. Suppose in your contract you have mentioned that you need the EV or the CNG vehicles, but the transport during the transporter and all, if they will find that DZ there's less available is the less resources available. Furthermore, you are giving a contract for the 5 years to a transporter, and if you have mentioned that you have to supply or you have to provide EV or the CNG driven vehicles, so at the same time, whatever the vehicles they have already, only the diesel operated vehicles, so they, if they wants to purchase the new vehicles, so they will also think that if I'll provide these services for the EV and CNG or provide to the one customer, and this contract is valid only for the 5 years, why I will invest only for the 5 years? Is that relevant or not? In that scenario, they just put some extra additional cost in that during filling the tender and all. So this is the similar situations all the industries facing, you can say, and where you have to come, if the organization is strict that I have to be look for the stakeholder involvement and all, then they are compromising with the profit. Like some social responsible organizations, like big brands are there, like they are doing actively for the environment, like the Tata, Aditya Birla and all. So they are thinking not too much for the profit, but now they are thinking that there's a brand reputation is also there, that I have also explained, that if you're working towards the sustainability, if your ESG score is high, if you want to work for the more ESG score, then definitely your investor will attract. You will also think that though my profit, I will compromise with my profit, but I will invest, and I will do some technological changes or the retrofitting, so that it will improve the environment performance and all, and that will improve the ESG rating and all. So few organizations adopt that policy, but few organizations where Indian company, like few small steel or iron integrated manufacturing company, they are, I think, if you see their website of the sustainability, they have phases and constructions, and also if you discuss with their employee and all, so the work culture or this, as I said, that working hours, work-life balance, and the industry, whatever they are working towards the environment, and also that is not as par with the bigger company like the Tata and the Birla, the bigger nations. So it's depend what is your it's depend on the management decisions, that in which way the management wants to either they wants to compromise with the profit, or they wants to improve their ESG rating and all. So it's a decision of the management in which area they wants to invest. So I hope the response and answer is clear to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, anyone? So if you want, anyone have any questions, they may ask. Otherwise, we can close this sessions. Yeah. So thanks from my side. Thanks to all, and thanks for your patience. Thanks to Anuradha for asking such kind of the questions. So that's also, I think, helps to other audience as well. So
Can you share this PPT, sir?
yeah, sure. I will discuss with the Dr. S.K. Gupta sir, and I will share this presentation to the team, and I hope
you,
this
sir.
team will share with everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you so much, sir, for such a nice and interactive session, sir. Thank you very much, Ramu, sir, for such a nice session.
Thank you.
I just requesting you
Thank
to
you.
share your PPT so that we can
Sure,
just share this among the participants.
Sure.
So thank you so much, sir. And with this, can we conclude this session over here, sir?
Yeah, please.
Sure. Thank you so much once again to Ramu, sir, and thanks to all the participants for taking this session at ICMAI SAO. So you will be getting this PPT, once we receive. So over here, we can just conclude this session. Thank you so much to all for joining this session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.